Have you ever imagined living in a time of complete peace of mind, when all of a sudden everything was changing at all? Think of the scene in a crowded bus, the passengers accommodated in a common environment, and out of nowhere, the routine is interrupted by a threat, which puts them all at risk. At the moment, there is a question that hangs in the air. And what would you do if, in the midst of trouble, an unlikely hero came along at exactly the right time? Stay with me until the end, because the story that I'm going to share with you have an element that will surprise you and change your perception about the guts and instincts. Let's imagine a scenario where the people you are following on your daily commute, not knowing that the danger is closer than they seem. Suddenly, an armed man enters the bus, announced a robbery that leaves everyone scared. The silence sets in, and the sense of vulnerability to spread among the passengers. At this moment, each and every one is like ice, as if the fear had taken hold of her actions, giving possessions without a fight, believing that there's nothing that could be done to prevent this tragedy. Who would have guessed that, in the midst of all the tension, a figure that is silent, though he seemed to be insignificant, he would turn the whole scene? That's what a surprise, a dog, and that he was right there, in between passengers, or perhaps in your vehicle, without calling attention to it until then. His presence went unnoticed for a while, until all of a sudden, he's doing something no one expected. No fear, no hesitation, that the dog is thrown up against the offender, in a spirit of courage to be that it looks like the output of an action movie. And what will happen next? You are going to find out in the next few scenes. But as this unlikely hero was able to change the course of that history, get ready, because this story goes beyond that of a simple action. It's a lesson in the courage, the animal instinct, and the power that comes in the moments when the most unlikely. Have you ever gone through something like this? It gets to me, because then we're going to understand exactly how it all started, and how to a simple one dog, and he became the true main character of this amazing story. If you identify with this one day, or do you feel that something similar has already happened in your life, and leave it here in the comments on what you played so far. To share our experiences, no matter how simple it may seem, it strengthens that connection is what we are building, and it shows that we are not alone in this journey. Oh, and if this video made sense to you, don't forget to like it, because each of you like to help spread this message. You inspire more and more people to believe in the potential that lies within them, even in the most difficult moments. Your being here is what makes this channel grow, and to reach more people with this kind of content, creating a real community of hope and resilience. If you want to continue with stories like this, subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date with everything that lies ahead of you. Always telling stories that show the strength from within, it is able to transform into any type of situation. So stay with me, because there's still a lot to explore, and with each comment, each enjoy, it makes a world of difference, so that we can continue bringing you the content that touches the heart and inspires us all to move forward with courage and hope. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth which is hidden by the back of our decision-making is often hidden in the details almost no one notices. It is as if we are living in a kind of theater, where our emotions, beliefs, and patterns of thinking, acting as the supporting characters, who in fact have a direct impact on the direction that we went on our way. And that influence is to be silent. It is often the person in charge of shaping our actions. Our choices are the most difficult, and as a result, the impact that we make on the world around us. Have you ever noticed how sometimes just a simple question, or a feeling of insecurity may seem like a small thing, but in fact, it carries a strong force? This one question, this feeling of insecurity, is often a reflection of a truth is hidden, that which we carry with us, something that we haven't been able to confront it until now. It can be an experience that we leave at the bottom of the memory, and a belief in limited, which has been fed by someone who does not believe in its capability, or a judgment which, by the fear of making a mistake, we ended up just leaving it for later, or even walking away from him. This small inner shadows have a much bigger impact than we can imagine, and because it creates a sort of invisible resistance, and a sort of wall that impedes our progress. And it is precisely at this point that comes to the importance of a true transformation, one that is born of a deeper understanding of yourself. Is not enough just to change the surface, trying to mask your insecurities, or to pretend that everything is all right. Real change happens when we are able to see beyond the surface, when we allow ourselves to immerse yourself in the behind the scenes of our mind, and the understanding of the mechanisms that lead us to behave in a particular way. You need to have the courage to question everything you have always accepted as truth, and to challenge our own beliefs, and most of all, to deal with the emotions that we'll often prefer to hide in. Because at the end of the day, our development depends on just for this courage, this desire to find out who is behind the mask that we wear to protect ourselves. And then comes the question of the impact of such a journey of self-discovery in our history. When we begin to uncover the deeper layers of ourselves, everything around us starts to change. The decisions start to be more conscious of the actions that are aligned with who we really are, and our minds open to the possibilities before you seem to be unattainable. It is as if, to tell the truth hidden inside of us, we're also opening the door to a new life, a more fulfilling, more authentic, and more connected to the things that really matter. This transformation won't happen overnight, but with each small step in that direction is going to building a solid foundation is able to support lasting change and impact. And it is precisely at this point that the behind the scenes of this story are revealed in a clearer light by showing that the journey of change, it is also a day of its release. Free yourself from the shackles of the past, out of the belief that we are limited, and the decisions that we make out of fear. It's all part of a process that requires patience, dedication, and a healthy dose of courage. Because deep down we're all in search of the truth about our very essence, the one who often gets hidden under the layers of insecurity, fear, or doubt. And the more we allow ourselves to tap into these scenes, build it, the stronger it becomes and the impact we can create, not only in our own lives, but also for those that are around us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because of the revelation that is to come to this dive. The inner can be amazing. Many of the times, in what we believe to be a real limitation, it is in fact an illusion created by the narrative in which we have learned since I was a child, or for the experience, which at the time it seemed to be permanent. When we begin to question these stories, deconstructing them, and with courage and candor, a new perspective emerges. It's as if our entire worldview is to be renewed, bringing to the fore the possibilities that would have seemed impossible before. This is the true essence of transformation, to realize that all the things that we thought to be a final judgment was, in fact, it is a construct of our own minds, and that we can rewrite it at any time. And in doing so, our inner power reveals itself in a way that's more vibrant, more dramatic. We understand that change is not dependent on external factors, such as, but to a decision by the internal. It's a commitment to our deepest truth. And at the same time, we begin to realize that every choice, every thought, every emotion, what we grow has a direct impact on our reality. It's as if we're creating our own story, and that story is to write all the time, on the basis of our decision-making, a more conscious and unconscious. So, the more we go deeper in the discovery, the more you realize that it's the true transformation does not change the surface, but the internal revolution that reverberates through the whole of our existence, and had a positive impact on all around us, in a way that many times we can't even imagine. He writes in, I'm on this journey too. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because it's just in that moment of understanding, they begin to realize the magnitude of what is at stake here, in our history, and this narrative that we believe will be fixed and unchangeable, in fact, is a mosaic of choices, standards, and beliefs that are to be repeated silently in the depths of our unconscious. And many of these beliefs, but they seem to be such a normal, or even self-evident, they carry a load of limitations, which is not always possible to see it right away. It is as if we are stuck with a script that has been written by past experiences, trauma, by the expectations of society, or even for those that we have absorbed it without question. And at the same time, this is a story that we've built as a powerful tool for transformation, but only if we have the courage to ask for all of it. Because you are, in essence, what really stops us from moving forward is in our own minds. It's full of answers and automatic behaviors rooted, famous the comfort zone, and that seems to be so safe. In fact, it works as a prison, are invisible, and where the most important decisions of our life are made almost automatically, without notice. And it is at this point that our day-to-day becomes a real internal battle, a constant struggle as to who we are and who we can become. And in this struggle, many a times, it is locked in the silence of our inner being, and in those moments of reflection, when we come to the question of whether what we believe to be the truth is actually the truth, or just a copy of something that has been imposed on it. Thinking about it leads to a revelation of the powerful, the genuine demands for a swim in our lives. It's like opening a door to a dark closet, where we keep memories, emotions, and beliefs that we often don't remember that they exist, but they are still shaping our attitudes and actions. And in doing so, we come to realize that many of our decisions today are a reflection of the past is not resolved, the pain is not gone, or wishes are not honored. And at the same time, it is liberating because it gives us the ability to rewrite history, to create a new script, more in line with what we really want in our lives. However, this change does not happen from one day to the next. It is a continuous journey of self-discovery and courage. Every decision you make along the way, it reveals a little bit more about who we are, in fact, and where you can go. It's as if with every step, however small it may seem to you, it was a very important part in the building of a new version of ourselves. And in this new version, which was born from the understanding that we are the authors of our own story, it may have an impact that goes far beyond what we can imagine. Because as we change internally, everything around you starts to change, reflecting that shift in the power, purpose, and mindset. And it is precisely at this point that we begin to understand the relationship between what is going on inside of us and the impact that it has on the outside world. The authenticity is, for example, is no longer just a nice word, and it becomes a daily practice. this. When we live up to the expectations of others, and we begin to listen to our inner voice, we open up space for a real transformation. And it is this transformation that it was time for our journey of growth. It also has an impact on the people around us, creating a domino effect. The truth is hidden. It often is just the thing that you don't want to acknowledge that our change is. In fact, it is a bridge to a new life, an opportunity to impact lives in a way that's more real and dramatic. When you realize all of this, we are faced with a fundamental question. To what extent are we willing to go in order to find out who you really are? Because deep down, that the quest for authenticity is a kind of a rebirth, a process of the dissolution of the old ideas and the redemption of our very essence, the most pure. And in this way, we encounter obstacles, questions, and even moments of despair, but also of breakthroughs, which makes us to understand that the struggle is worth it. After all, it's in our history, with all its nuances, it is a reflection of our potential for change, an opportunity to rewrite the script of our lives, consciously and intentionally. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this subject, because it is the real revelation is in the realization that this journey of transformation is not only about the goal, or win results. It is first and foremost, an internal revolution, a change in the mindset that allows you to see the world through fresh eyes, with more clarity and purpose. When we align our actions with our deepest values, everything around you starts to move it in the direction of what you really want. And even though the difficulties appear, that they are no longer barriers, and come to be an essential part of the process of growing up. Because at the end of the day, the biggest transformation is happening inside of us, in our ability to decide who you want to be, and to take on this responsibility in full. And this is a change that is born from a quest of self-discovery. It is able to impact the whole of our reality, and by creating opportunities, which before would have seemed impossible. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the true essence of transformation is not only in the overcoming of the moment, but in the construction of a mindset that allows us to see, in addition to all the difficulties, in addition to all of the limitations that often seem insurmountable. It is at this point that the self-awareness, it becomes a very powerful tool. Therefore, to get to know each other the truth, we can begin to understand what our real strengths and our weak points. And it is precisely this understanding that is the key to lasting change. When we pause to reflect on our choices, our emotions and our actions, we begin to realize that all that we are is the result of the decisions made in the course of time, many of which are unconscious or automatic. So it's a journey of self-discovery. It becomes a sort of a map, which reveals the charms and the ways are the most effective for your transformation. In the process, we realize that it is not enough to simply want a change. It is important to understand why it is that certain beliefs and patterns that keep us from moving forward. These beliefs are often deeply rooted from childhood, or have been built over the experience memorable, and they act as filters in much the invisible shaping our perceptions and our everyday decisions. Many of the times, we believe that we are helpless, that the world is a tough place, or that the truth is something that is reserved for the few. These are the truths that are hidden from what we carry, but which, if they are exposed, they lose their power to change it. When you recognize these old concepts, we can begin to ask them, deconstructing them, and replace them with beliefs more in line with who you really want to be. And it is at this point that the change becomes a real internal revolution, a transformation that affects not only our minds but also in our attitude to life. This change of perspective allows us to see opportunities where we see obstacles. He gives us the courage to get out of your comfort zone and try out new ideas even if they seem like they are challenging. Because you are, in essence, the force that keeps us going is our own decision to move on, to embrace the unknown and learn from their mistakes. With each step taken in this sense, it is a statement of who we are. In fact, take control of our story, instead of being spectators of our lives, and be in control of assets. And in doing so, we begin to realize that our actions have a direct impact on our reality. The small changes in your mindset can set off a chain of events that would transform you completely in our environment, our relationships, and even our emotional health. It's a kind of a domino effect, where every conscious decision to become a foundational building block in the construction of a new me. And more than that, this is a journey of self-transformation and reveals that the true power is within us and in our ability to choose who we want to be, and to make those choices with intention and responsibility. When you go deeper into these issues, and many are discovering that the greatest revelations that take place behind the scenes of your mind, those moments of quiet and reflection, where the routine is to slow down and truly connect with them, even if it is established, that's where the answers are beginning to emerge, often in a way that is subtle, yet profound, bringing clarity and direction. And, to the extent that this is clearly becomes more and more present in decision-making in advance if you have it, turning to the hope of a conviction that the path you have chosen is the one that actually makes sense for who we are, and who we want to become. And all of this leads us to a deeper understanding of the journey of self-discovery, though challenging, is one of the greatest adventures of your life because it allows us to find out what is the most valuable asset in all of us. And with each discovery, each and every insight, we build a stronger foundation to weather any storm. After all, it is the biggest transformation is the one that happens in the world outside, in the outside world, but the one that occurs in-house, on our ability to make decisions, to change, to evolve. And in the process, we discover that the truth is hidden behind all the trouble. It is, in fact, an opportunity for us to reinventarmos of reescrivermos in our history and create a new life, more in tune with our dreams and our purpose, more profound. He comments that it makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that a lot of people get lost on their journey of transformation. The truth is hidden, the one that you just are able to see it, is that everything that happens around us is a reflection on the merge of what's going on inside of us. The difficulties, the obstacles, and the losses are all part of one big mirror that shows our deepest beliefs, our fears and hidden desires, which are many times that we can't even name it. It's as if the universe were inviting us to look inward, to face what they have avoided, and understand that real change will only happen when we become aware of the inside, which is often stays quiet, hidden under the layers of insecurity and daily routine. This finding in itself is already a big step, but in order for her to take on a whole, it is necessary that such an understanding is to be accompanied by a decision on a firm and courageous in taking control of their own narrative. Many of them live stuck on the idea that your circumstances will determine your fate, when in fact is the way in which we respond to them, and we think that wraps it all around you. This is a change of mindset. This is a transformation from the inside to the outside. It requires a breach of the standards, and a reprogramming of the mind which goes beyond the simple desire for change is only skin deep. It is a journey of self-discovery, of a deep dive into our inner selves, where we discover that we are much more than our labels, limits, or stories of failure that we have. When you understand this, you begin to realize that everything that happens to us has a different function, even in the most challenging situations, and carry out a message, a lesson to hide that, if deciphered correctly, then we are driving to a whole new level. It is as if we are being asked to unlock it with a key that will open the door to possibilities that, until then, will not be seen. When it is discovered, our outlook on the world changes completely, and that's what it seemed to be impossible to pass the step of the process. This is the true magic of the transformation. This is not a change in the external, but the internal developments that reverberates in all aspects of life, having an impact on our decisions, our relationships, our health, the emotional, and especially with the purpose that we have. And it is in this context that the behind the scenes of this change, if you show up with an amazing clarity, behind every story of success, or a story of resilience, there is a decision to be silent, to a choice in the private sphere of the soul, of which it is possible to rewrite the history. These findings often are accompanied by a feeling of release, as if a layer of deception to be removed, and then suddenly, it all became a lighter, more real. In the process, we discover that the impact does not come from external factors, but on the understanding that they are the main actors in our script, and then, to take on such a responsibility, and it all starts to fit together in a way that seemed to be impossible. That is why it is so important that each and every one of us to be open to seeing beyond the surface. Seeking to understand what it really becomes is not a silver bullet, but it's a change of mind, as an act of courage to face your own truth, and to open up space for something new. Because, in the end, this is a journey of self-discovery, and decision-making processes of consciousness is the one who leads us to discover who we really are, in addition to the masks and limitations that often prevent us from progressing. And in doing so, we get into a cycle of continuous growth, in which each congregation, each of the decision, and urges us to dig even deeper into our own truth, to make a living that not only makes sense, but what is truly ours. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation happens when we begin to understand that all of what we have, all our experiences are like mirrors, reflecting our own beliefs, the most widespread. Sometimes we spend years looking for answers out there, trying to get the external validation that can only be found within ourselves. And in the process, it is common to meet with a truth that hides many of the times we prefer to ignore, that our freedom depends, first of all, an internal decision to change our way of thinking, and therefore our actions. The journey of self-discovery is not something that is straightforward. It is full of twists and turns, ups and downs, moments of clarity, and periods of confusion. It's like a dance, a silent, between who we are and who we can become. When we begin to unravel the layers inside, we realize that a lot of the limitations that were built by the decisions we make over time, many of which are driven by fear, insecurity, or even the desire to please other people. These decisions often seem to be minor on the surface, but they carry a giant impact on our history. And that's exactly where it comes to the importance of a fresh perspective, a change of mindset that will allow us to look beyond the obvious and question all the truths that have been imposed upon, or that we use it without thinking about it. The truth is hidden, often, is in our own life story. The story we tell ourselves about who we are, what we can or can't accomplish, or even about the world around us. These stories, full of concepts and beliefs, shape our reality, and to limit or enhance our services. When we begin to tap into these scenes and domestic, we were surprised to see how much we can rewrite our narrative, giving a new chance to be there seem to be unattainable. It is at this point that the transformation becomes more real, because it's not just a matter of changing the surface, but it is a great internal to a real paradigm shift. And it is this paradigm shift that requires courage. The courage to face your own shadows, to recognize the things that we would prefer to conceal or deny it. It is an exercise in vulnerability. In spite of the challenging, it is essential for those who want to evolve in a way that is genuine. To make room for a view of these findings, we realize that a lot of our decision-making, the most significant, have been made on the basis of a mindset of scarcity, fear, or doubt. And then, when we bring awareness to these patterns, we can begin to replace them with an attitude of abundance, confidence, and self-esteem. After all, it is the transformation does not come from changes in foreign, but also a deep change in its internal structure, which influences everything around us. This process will reveal the truth the more authentic it is always there, hidden behind the layers of conditioning and expectations. And then, how much more will we allow ourselves to tap into this essence, the clearer it becomes that we are able to create a reality in alignment with who you truly are. This is clearly, in this connection, in truth, is the one that gives you a sense of the journey. It is the fuel that drives us to keep on going even in the face of obstacles that seem bigger than you can handle. With each revelation, each and every decision consciously brings us closer to our deeper purpose, one that is often hidden under a layer of doubt and insecurity. The beauty of this journey is about exactly that. Finding the real freedom comes from within, from a decision making every day to be true to himself, and the question of what limits us, and to embrace the potential that exists in each and every one of us. It is a transformation process that requires perseverance, patience, and above all, self-love, because deep down, that the quest for authenticity is a journey of 1,000 autocompexeo of constant learning about who we are, in essence, in addition to all of that we have been taught, or taxed, in the course of life. And in doing so, we are asked to rewrite our story of courage and clarity, and building a life that will truly resonate with our deepest truth, and therefore, they left behind all the things that prevent us from progressing. He comments that it makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because this is a journey of discovery, and the authenticity of many of the times reveal hidden layers that we are not always ready to face. The guy. It is as if, in the dig out of our own soul, we find a plot of land filled with ancient traditions, the memories that we have, without realizing it, the beliefs that became true by virtue of the repetition and experience, which is so striking that shaped our view of the world. And in the process, we realize that many of the roots are, in fact, are the obstacles to the invisible, which will prevent our development, a type of emotional prison that you have created, without notice, and sometimes a need to protect that, in essence, turned out to be an obstacle. When you immerse yourself in this world within, we begin to understand that our daily decisions, our attitudes, more automated, they are reflections of those layers of conditioning. And here arises a question that often goes under the radar. Why do we do that? Why do we behave in a given way in the face of a situation in which, for others, it would be simple to do to solve it? The answer lies in the history of life is the sum of small choices and experiences, which from time to time, they were turning into a sort of roadmap to mental well-being. And this is the script, often leads to repeat the patterns that seem impossible to break. But the truth is hidden behind all this, is that no matter how deeply rooted it is in these patterns, they do not define who we really are. They are just the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories they can write back. And this is where the transformation begins to happen. When we allow ourselves to look out for insincerity and without judgment, we start to see beyond the masks that we wear to protect ourselves. This is a time of liberation, on the acceptance of our own vulnerability, which is often seen as a weakness, but in fact it is the very first step to true power. The courage to admit our shadows, those parts of you that would prefer to hide, it is what allows us to create a new narrative, one that is more in tune with our inner selves. And in the process, we have discovered that the authenticity of it is not something that is achieved at one time or another, but it is a continuous practice of self-awareness and autocompexeo. When you understand that our decision-making, the more deep-rooted in the beliefs and fears of older, we begin to question all the things that we've been taught to accept as the truth. This is a revelation of the powerful, because it gives us the power to choose what stories do we want to keep and what we leave behind. But to do that, you have to have the courage to face the truth that is hidden, that they often prefer to ignore, to avoid the discomfort of growth. And in doing so, we are faced with the power to transform, a sense of freedom that comes from realizing that we are the authors of our own stories, that are capable of rewriting each chapter, along with the intention and authenticity at the rack on this journey. There are a lot of revelations that often remain hidden in the shadows of the unconscious mind. They are small actions that, when understood, reveals the roots of our behavior in the deep. And once you understand those behind the scenes, we were able to build up new strategies for coping with. The more you are aligned with who we really are, and not who we have been conditioned to be so, it often acts as a gateway to a new awareness, where we went to look at life from a broader perspective, the most compassionate, and most importantly, more accurate. It is a change that goes way beyond the surface, when the foundations of our identity, and we prepare to go on a journey of continued growth, decision-making, and conscious of the impact on our history. And in that moment, you realize that the quest for authenticity is a journey that never ends if you reveal it to the full. Every step you take, every insight, it opens the door to new layers of understanding. And at the same time, it is challenging to keep an open mind, the courage to follow the exploring, even when your path seems unsure or uncomfortable to wear. Because you are, in essence, this is an opportunity for us to reconnect with our true self, and build a life that truly reflects our essence is the most authentic, without mask, without the mask, without the mask. And in so doing, we can begin to understand that the greatest transformation is happening to us when we allow ourselves to be who we truly are, with all our imperfections and idiosyncrasies, knowing that this is the only way to live a life of impact and purpose and meaning. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the journey of self-discovery that is not something that happens in an hour or so to the other one. It is a process of continuous revelation. When I understood that each of the layer that is removed it takes us closer to our true nature. Many of the times, this truth is hidden. It is buried beneath the layers of expectations of foreign judgments, fears, and even in the limiting belief that, when questioned, they become the truth on our mind. The big question is, how can we really explore the area built of vast and often terrifying? The answer to this lies in the courage to face what you are hiding, to immerse themselves in the story and the emotions, and accept that the path to that authenticity goes on, inevitably be moments of discomfort. The transformation is, in a sense, it requires an attitude of openness and vulnerability. It is necessary to peel off the skins you create in the course of the year, for those who do it to fit in, to please, or to avoid conflicts. When we allow ourselves to live a more genuine, we have begun to realize that many of our decisions are influenced by the patterns which are not even identified to you. And in doing this, one thing is becoming clear. It is changing doesn't mean giving up, but rather to align your actions with our deepest truth. This connection between what we know and what we do, it's the impact that we want to make it in the world, with a sense of purpose that we are looking for a long time. However, the true transformation is not only in a change to the outside, or the adoption of new routines. It is a change of mindset in terms of how we think of our own history. It is as if behind every decision, and every fear or doubt, and there was a story to that, too often, has been built by other people and experiences that we think of as absolute truth. When we begin to question this narrative, we opened up the space for a new perspective, one that is more in tune with who we really are, without the shackles of the past or expectations of the world around us. This new vision is poor, and at the same time challenging, because you need to have the courage to rewrite the script of your life. In this journey of transformation, and the impact we can make is enormous, not only in our own history, but also for those that are around us, as we become more aware of who we are, in fact, have inspired others to do the same, thus creating a chain of authenticity and freedom. In the process, behind the scenes of our hearts and minds are revealed to be, in showing that on the back of the hood, there is a powerful force that can transform obstacles into opportunities, and questions for sure and fears into motivation. This is where it connects to the authenticity, courage, and now and in the pursuit of a purpose that goes beyond the interests of the surface. Of course, this journey is not linear, nor is freedom from any obstacles. There are moments of doubt, and of the implications, challenges much that will challenge our resolve. But those moments are crucial, because it shows us just how much we've grown up and ready for a version that is closer to the truth than we do ourselves. That is a challenge to be a mirror that reflects the things that still need to be worked on, and an opportunity to learn, to focus and move forward with more clarity. In the end, the transformation is not a destination but a constant state of evolution, a never-ending quest for the alignment between what we are and what we do and the impact we want to make it. And while all this is happening, and our understanding of who we are and what really matters to you, and our role in the great web of life is enhanced, we find that the impact is not something that is external, it is a conquest of a material or an endorsement of the social, but rather a natural consequence of living with authenticity. When we allow ourselves to be who we truly are, without masks, or face masks for protection, and everything takes on a new meaning. Every decision, every relationship, every moment that passes, the charge and tension, more genuine, more in tune with our inner selves. And so, the journey of self-discovery becomes a real internal personal revolution, a transformation, a silent but powerful. It is going to shape the way we see the world, and as a consequence of an impact on everything around us. And it is precisely at this point that we begin to understand the real truth is hidden, that the change starts within you, and that is to transform our way of thinking. We open the door to a more meaningful life, more connected and more in tune with all our dreams, more of the deep, because in the end it all comes down to a choice, a decision to look out for in, and you accept that by doing this, we are taking the very first step to a revolution that could transform everything around us, from the inside to the outside. And in it, each and every small step forward, every insight, it becomes a very important part in the construction of a new reality that is more authentic, more freedom, and above all, authentic. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation starts right in your ability to see beyond the surface, to break down the belief that a lot of times we are limited without notice. It is as if, for the back of the building to safety, or routine of a seemingly stable, there's a universe of possibilities, is that it only comes into its own when you make the choice to question everything that has been imposed or inherited it from time to time. This is a journey of self-discovery, that is, it is about having the courage, because a lot of times, it reveals truths we would rather keep hidden, and fear that we'd rather not experience, and desire that you insist on staying in the shade, with a routine that's comfortable, even if unsatisfactory. When you dive into this process, we begin to realize that the biggest part of our decision-making is influenced by a number of conditions. Many of the times, we don't even have a conscience. These are the so-called truths that are hidden from those that shape the choices we make without knowing it, creating a sort of prison to recognize that prevent us from moving forward in truth. And then, when we are faced with this reality, it is not uncommon to feel a mixture of fear and hope. The fear of leaving what we already know, to go out of my comfort zone, but it is also a hope of a latent, that there is something more, something that actually makes sense for all of our experiences. When you decide to explore these behind the scenes to internal begin to understand that change doesn't happen by accident. It is the result of a conscious decision to face up to what is deepest within you. It's like opening a door that was locked away for years, and in so doing, discover a world of possibilities before it seemed to be a hidden, almost invisible. During this time, many are discovering that the impact of the transformation, it will also change the surface. It manifests itself in the way in which you perceive the world, and in their relationships, and the choices each day, in a time and in a relationship with one's own happiness. And here comes the reflection that a lot of people miss. Real change requires a growth mindset, a provision of learning, unlearning and reinventing itself. This idea is like the fuel for the journey, an inner force that urges you to continue on, even when the way seems hard, because you are, in essence, the change is a matter of choice, but also to self-discipline. This is how to build a simple bridge the gap between who you were and who you can be, and that the bridge only supports with firm steps, and with the choices that are aligned with your deepest truth. To deepen your experience of the universe is built, you will begin to realize that each and every revelation, every insight, it is a very important part in the construction of a new narrative, a story that is not written by outside expectations or the standards of taxes, but what he's really beating inside of you. And that authenticity is what gives a meaning to it all, because it reveals the essence of the purest, most of that which many a times it is hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, and confusion. When you are able to reach the truth, it will all become more clear, lighter in weight, more closely aligned with what really matters to you. However, it is important to remember that this is a journey of self-discovery is not a straight line. It is made up of highs and lows, discoveries and moments of doubt, of the progress and setbacks. And that's okay. The important thing is to keep the focus on the direction, with the intention of connecting with who you truly are from the inside to the outside. Because by doing so, you will not only transform her own life, but it also has an effect on the impact it has on the world around them. Each made a conscious decision, each step taken with intention to contribute to a great message, but very powerful, and that it begins in its very essence, and it spreads to all aspects of your journey. This is the revelation of who is the real power is in our hands, as it is liberating. It shows that you are not stuck with a reality that is fixed, but they have the potential to create a new narrative, one that is rewriting our own stories of courage, authenticity, and self-love. And in doing so, we realize that the most far-reaching transformation is that it happens from the inside to the outside, a revolution of the soul, which in turn is reflected in the impact of what we produce in the world. Every choice, every decision is to look beyond the surface. This is a seed of change, which over time blossoms in a new version of ourselves, the more in tune, more aware, and more accurate. And so, the search for authenticity of it becomes a movement of liberation, a journey that reveals the components are hidden in our soul, and inspires us to live more fully, boldly, and without fear of showing who you really are. Because at the end of the day, the truth is the most powerful. It is the courage to be ourselves, to accept our shortcomings, learn from them and move on with the confidence that the greatest transformation is exactly at the point of decision-making. And in this game of discovery and revelation, and every step brings us closer to the life you want, a life that pulsates in the rhythm of our lives more fully. He writes in, I'm on this journey too. And that's it, folks. We have reached the end of this conversation, and if you've read this far, I want to tell you that his attention and willingness to make a difference. You understand that transformation happens when we accept who we really are is an important milestone, and you've had a good walk in that direction. So if this message resonated with you, leave it here in the comments, something like, I'm on this journey too, so that we can exchange idea, we'll share experience and strengthen the connection that you're making. If this content made sense, and takes the chance to leave a like, because it is a way of showing that what has been said here is a part of your routine as well. This is the connection that we created in the course of the video. That is exactly what makes it all worth it, and your support helps to keep this space alive. More topics that can help you to grow and learn more. And look, there's a video right here on the side that complements this exact issue, talking about how to keep the authenticity in times of distress. Click there, and still am there. It is because it has a lot of good stuff coming from there, though. The idea is that if you continue on this journey of self-discovery, and always with a calm and open to new things, thank you for being with me until the very end. I hope you'll enjoy each and every step of this journey. Remember that the best is yet to come. Until the next video.